everybody, I'm your friendly neighborhood Endman64, and I am bringing you a special video. Not too long ago, as you guys may recall, I did a top 10 of my all-time favorites openings videos for us all to enjoy, and for you guys to wonder and harbor on, but I decided, heck, why don't I do a commentary of it? I know I had promised one a few years ago, but I'm only getting around to it now because of reasons. As many of you are aware of at this point, my external hard drive no longer works. And because of that, I have now had to go back to working on projects that I would ordinarily have thought null and void. So this is basically going to be a commentary video of me sort of explaining to you and to everyone why the choices I made were the choices I made. Now, to set us all up right now, the first thing you guys are probably asking is, this list was made in 2016. Is it still, like, to date? Like, is this list, your top 10, still exactly your top 10? And yes it is. My top 10 is my top 10, and that's exactly what it is at this moment. I very much doubt it's going to change, because all 10 of the ones that are going to be following all these honorable mentions are ones that, for the most part, I've grown up with. I love these 10 openings, and they all have a very unique story to them that, or most of them do, that I just enjoy watching them whenever I put on the videotape. And yeah, this was a very hard list to put together. Like, all of these honorable mentions could very well have been put in a separate video, but for the most part, I just really, like this right here, I decided, no, I'm going to stick to my gun. These are the 10 that I'm going to stick with, because these 10, obviously not my 10 favorite films, because some of them are repeats on the list, but no, this is a list that I am very proud of and I'm going to stick to. If I would have to add an honorable mention in that's not there, I'd also have to add the 1990 release of Peter Pan, and
you and your family can embark on an exciting cruise vacation.
The 2002 release of Beauty and the Beast is another one that I would add to this, but unfortunately I didn't want to have a video that was nearly an hour long, especially since I'd split this into 2 parts anyway. But now we get to the top 10, and this is the meat of the things. This is what matters. Now, number 10 is The Fox and the Hound from 1994. And I have a doozy of a story about this one. When I was about 9 or 10 years old, my dad took me and my sister with our cousins to go skiing in Pennsylvania. And we got a hotel, the 3 of us, me, my dad, and my sister, but we would keep going to my uncle's condo, so we'd use their pool, we'd do whatever there, and that, and there, that. We ended up leaving the mountain. We came home, we went to their house to have some dinner, because my uncle had ordered pizza for everybody, so we had pizza. The pizza guy ended up taking an hour to get to the condo because we were all snowed in. And the fact that we were snowed in was not good, because, first off, most of the stuff that we had to entertain ourselves was not there. It was either in our hotel room or somewhere else. So there were only 3 things that we could do to entertain ourselves while we were there, unless you wanted to shovel the snow that ended up blocking us in, effectively. You could watch TV, which was either occupied by my dad and my uncle when they weren't shoveling, or occupied by my aunt when she wasn't working on her laptop. So, that's that. The laptop was occupied mostly by either my aunt or my sister and my other cousin, who were playing The Sims, which left only one other alternative. We had another television at the condo, but it didn't have access to cable, and it could only play videotapes. And guess which videotape was the only one that we had? The Fox and the Hound, this particular tape. So it got to the point where we watched The Fox, my cousin Amanda and I watched The Fox and the Hound 5 or 6 times during the course of 2 days. Because we were snowed in that long. We could not get out. We could not get out onto the road or out of our car, into the cars, because we got that much snow. But, like I said, we did manage to get out. The only psychological damage from that being I now know every word to this opening by heart. And, yes, this one including the one with the return of Jafar, because, hey, this did a lot of damage to me as a kid. And it's not even like The Fox and the Hound, this videotape in particular is like that big on my all-time favorites list. It's just like, I have such fond memories of this tape, like, that I know, I'm surprised I don't know The Fox and the Hound word by word. But hey, what you gonna do? That was this was the only thing we could do to entertain ourselves in a snowstorm, so I guess that's it. At least for The Fox and the Hound, of course, because we still got a bunch more tapes to discuss. Number 9 was The Jungle Book, the 1991 iteration of The Jungle Book, to be precise. This one is... This one's a funny one, because... my mom actually ended up bringing this up to me recently, because... when I first put this on the list... I liked it just specifically for this behind-the-scenes look at Beauty and the Beast. It was in depth, and it just screams Disney to me. This one trailer for Beauty and the Beast, with the whole thing about Snow White and Oliver and Company and Little Mermaid and stuff like that. But my mom brought this fact up to me not that long ago. Where I lived in Long Island, there was the next street that we were on, because we lived in like a like one of those private community areas when I was a little kid. The minute you got out of there was a Blockbuster. And for all the little kids that don't know, Blockbuster was a place where you could rent videos and video games for a couple of days, and if you didn't bring them back, you got late fees. Late fees don't exist anymore, but whatever. But to get back to the point, I would rent The Jungle Book every time we went. And I ended up watching The Jungle Book so many times at one point that we had not only rented it like 5 or 6 times in the span of like 2 or 3 weeks, that the tape just gave out.
Now, the Walt Disney Studios
not only just because of just this trailer itself, but because of The Jungle Book, because I had loved it so much when I was a little kid. And I was devastated. My mom wasn't particularly happy because we had to go and buy them a copy of The Jungle Book. We had to give them money so they could pay to get a new copy of The Jungle Book given to them. And this was like 1996, mind you. Like, I was like a 2-year-old. So I wasn't. So not only was I not. So it was like I didn't do it on purpose. It's just the way things happened. But of course, they had to go buy a new tape of The Jungle Book, and it was a classics one, mind you, because this was 1996, as the masterpiece version of The Jungle Book wouldn't come out until 1997. And I was devastated because I loved The Jungle Book, and there really wasn't a way that we could watch it anymore because the Blockbuster's copy of it was gone, and my mom was so embarrassed. She was like, I can't go back to this Blockbuster anymore. But the guy was like, no, you understand. It's a kid's movie. It's a Disney movie. Remember, guys, this was the mid-90s. This is when Disney was at their peak, making the best content they could possibly make during the Renaissance. But we ended up getting another copy of it, or we ended up being able to rent it from our local library, but this one was even stricter, as it was, instead of having it for about a week, you only had it for 2 days, so you could watch it as many times as you could, but then you had to bring it back. It got so yeah, like my mom ended up freaking out and like actually writing a letter to Disney asking when they were going to release the Jungle Book again. And they never wrote back, but my mother's prayers were answered when Pooh's Grand Adventure, The Search for Christopher Robin came out, and it had that trailer, that whole like, 3 timeless Disney classics trailer for Mary Poppins, Sleeping Beauty, and The Jungle Book. Now, I was an extremely ecstatic kid, but I got more on The Jungle Book coming later because I'm going to get into a more personal story in the next part because that's where the next Jungle Book one is, the 1997 one. So, all in all, I just wanted to tell that funny story about the 1991 Jungle Book that I mistakenly or lovingly broke because I love the Jungle Book so much. Number 8 is kind of a funny one because there was a point when I was like 4 or 5 when my sister and I both got sick at the same time. So what happened was my sister and I both got sick at the same time with separate diseases. So I had bronchitis and my sister had scarlet fever. So because my parents thought we were both sick from what could have been the same thing, they basically isolated us from everybody. So my mom ended up taking a day off of work and sat and took care of us, did whatever we could. My sister and I were both on separate couches. She was on the big one, I was on the little one, and we watched the only movie we could agree on, because I wanted to watch Lion King, she wouldn't want to watch Lion King. She wanted to watch Cinderella, I didn't want to watch Cinderella. But the only movie we could agree on was Pocahontas, and the only video of Pocahontas that was available at that point was the 1996 one. So we watched the Pocahontas 1996 like that. So a day goes by, my sister and I aren't any better. My mom can't get us into the doctors yet because of some reason. So
You're not hurt, are you?
my mom then brings
By the way, great math.
us to my aunt's house because she needed to go back to work, and my grandparents were both sets of my grandparents were actually out of the country. Technically not out of the country, but my dad's parents were in Alaska, and my mom's parents were in Nova Scotia, so they weren't able to look after us. Both my parents couldn't afford to take any days off of work anymore, so it was a Friday. That I remember because the next day was a Saturday, and that's when my mom could get us into the doctors. So she dropped us off at our aunt's house, and what does our aunt have on for her also sick kids? Pocahontas. So the 4 of us watched Pocahontas, the 5 of us, including my aunt, watched Pocahontas until my dad got home and picked us up. And rounding out this story, even though I know this opening is a bit longer than the story that I had to tell for this, we get to the doctors, and apparently we walk in. My mom starts signing us in. My sister and I go over to sit down because we're both feeling awful. We don't know what we're gonna do. And as we're there, we hear a Hunchback of Notre Dame trailer going on the TV. And when the old man gets trapped in the stock, and he's like, "Dang it!" I apparently said, "What a woman!" And at the same time that Phoebus did, which got my mom and the secretary laughing, and she's like, "I guess you guys have seen this movie before?" And my mom's like, "They don't watch The Hunchback that much." And she looked up, she's like, "Oh my God, is this Pocahontas?" She's like, and the teacher's like, and the woman's like, "Well, yeah, we put on Pocahontas because that was one of the movies we hadn't put on lately." Because yes, this pediatrician's office had a friggin' bookcase full of videos that they would put on for the waiting room because, you know, us kids, we weren't patient. Or if we were patient, we would run around and we would cry, and they were hoping maybe they could shut the kids up. But the fact that it was Pocahontas for the third day in a row, mind you, and apparently I have a memory so good that I could do the "dang it, what a woman" part, so well known to me, is very bizarre, and since then I have never been able to look at the opening to Pocahontas in the same way. Now there is sort of a twofer part of this one, because one of the weird things about our tape of Pocahontas was something that I thought was like, we had like a really special tape about it, and apparently we did, because Pocahontas was released in the Masterpiece Collection in 1996, but it had a video editing error on it, whereas instead of the Masterpiece Collection logo in front of it, we had the Classics logo in front of it. So you can see on our edition of Pocahontas that we have the Classics edition, Classics logo on it. And I used to think that was awesome, and that was really the first time where I began to look into maybe collecting videos. Unfortunately, Pocahontas was not a survivor of the Great Video Purge of 2009, which, in case you're wondering, the Great Video Purge of 2009 was my mom deciding we needed more room for books and educational things, even though I was in high school at this point, so I don't know why. But long story short, she purged basically every videotape from our collection that we did not have on DVD. So, Aladdin, gone. Beauty and the Beast, gone. Lion King, gone. Pocahontas, gone. No, Cinderella was still there. There were a handful that were still there. One of the few survivors were, we had Dumbo. We had a copy of the Jungle Book I got from my cousin, as they were getting rid of their videotapes because they just weren't watching them anymore. Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, both of the classics, not the classics, the Masterpiece Collection editions. Mickey's House of Villains. Sorry, my phone went off. Mickey's House of Villains, and a couple of other videotapes, but aside from that, we didn't have much left afterwards. So that's why I sort of realized, like, this tape that we used to have just no longer exists anymore. Or if it does, it's not out there, because the Masterpiece Collection tape of Pocahontas that I have now has the Masterpiece logo on it. So I don't have the cool tape anymore, and it makes me feel sad. But, like we say in the old country, Hakuna Matata, we'll just have to start rebuilding again from scratch. But, like I said, I'm an optimist, so I will hope that one day I will be good enough to get that. The problem is, I don't know... The problem is, when I go to look for videotapes, I don't know what's on them in terms of content. Like, I can only go for the exterior, so, like, if I get the Jungle Book 1991 that has a sticker label instead of an ink label, that I know is different. But if I get the same Jungle Book tape, I can't be sure if it's the exact same one as what I already have. It's like, for example, some people say that there's a Jungle Book videotape that has the green FBI warnings, as it's like sort of a prototype for it. I've never seen one, and the problem is, every time you buy the Jungle Book 1991, it basically just, you never know. Like, it could be the one, but 9 times out of 10, you're pretty sure it's not. And it's a crying shame, you know? I don't know. I don't know, guys. I just don't know. Who texted me anyway? Oh, it was my dad. He said he wanted to cook tonight, but apparently it's takeout night again. Chipotle! I can already feel the pain out of my butt. Oh well, but that's sort of basically all I have to say about Pocahontas, because the opening is probably the most memorable part of the movie to me. The rest is very pretty boringness. Number 7, on the other hand, is a movie that I had been looking forward to for a very long time as a little kid. This being The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. Now, when you're growing up in the 90s, we know that the Disney sequels have the direct-to-video sequels now have a very bad reputation for being basically just awful. But back in the day, this was in the early days of it, so you sort of had hope that it was going to be really good. And by the time Lion King 2 came around, their batting average was actually pretty darn high when it came to direct-to-video sequels. Return of Jafar and Aladdin and the King of Thieves were both pretty darn good. Pooh's Grand Adventure was very good. Pocahontas 2 was very good. In fact, the only really bad direct-to-video sequel of the main Disney films that was out there was Beauty and the Beast: The Enchanted Christmas. So, when you hear that a direct-to-video sequel to The Lion King is coming out, and it's not going to be just a rehash of the first one, it's going to be based loosely off Romeo and Juliet, as Lion King was based off of Hamlet, though I say it has more in common with Macbeth. Either way, we're not getting into that conversation now. Simba's Pride was probably the most memorable gift I ever got on Christmas. Like, my parents were usually good when it came to getting the Disney tapes out basically as soon as they came out. Like, my mom got The Lion King the day before, or the day after they released it on video. Or not the day after, the day before. Yeah, the day before. Like, she went to the supermarket to grab a few things that we needed around the house at like 8 o'clock at night as they were getting ready to close. And at that time, they were putting out the display for Lion King, because this was the first time Lion King had been out on video since it had been in theaters in 1994. And my mom's like, "Oh my God, could I buy one?" And the cashier's like, "Sure, you're the only one here. And you're just going to promise me that you're not going to tell anybody that it came out early." And we're like, "Yeah, sure." Even though I'm telling you guys now, I'm pretty sure Disney doesn't care anymore because, well, it's been 25 years. I think Disney would have its grudge knocked down a little bit, just a wee bit. But yes, Lion King was the movie that was probably played the most in our house from the point when we got it to the point when, basically now, because I pretty much watched The Lion King, one of my go-to movies most days, because, well, it's The Lion King and it's one of my all-time favorite movies. So when the idea of a sequel comes out to it, you're like, holy crap, this might actually be a masterpiece. And, well, it sort of was and wasn't at the same time, but this was basically getting you psyched up for what was to come. And what better selection of previews could you have for a kid who's pretty much his whole world revolved around Disney at the time. We had a good chunk of the Disney classics. We didn't have all of them. So when you hear, "Oh, well, The Rescuers is coming out," and I've never seen that, so it's like, "Oh, we could go get it." We never got it because my mom basically judged the movies based on if she had seen them and had a positive memory of them, or if parents said, "Oh, you should get this." So there were actually some Disney classics that we never owned until nowadays when I'm an adult. So like The Sword and the Stone we didn't have, Lady and the Tramp we didn't have, The Rescuers we didn't have. But if it was a film released during the Renaissance outside of The Rescuers Down Under, chances are we had it. We had Little Mermaid, we had Beauty and the Beast, we had Aladdin, we had Lion King, we had Nightmare Before Christmas, Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Pocahontas, Hunchback, Hercules, we even got Mulan. And the first movie I have genuine memories of seeing in theaters was Doug's first movie, which was originally supposed to be direct-to-video, as you can see here. but it was released to theaters. And I'd been a big fan of Doug as a little kid. Of course, we didn't realize that it was Disney's Doug. It wasn't a good movie. It was Doug, though, so we enjoyed it. Yay!
Patty Mayonnaise, Roger Klotz,
Yay!
as all your favorite characters.
But no, when I first opened this up, this was the most memorable Christmas gift I'd ever gotten in 1998, and
Our people have located monster
I watched this probably as often as I used to watch The Jungle Book, and
Can we meet, later?
All the answers are revealed.
yet I never broke the tape.
Movie event.
I don't know what happened to the tape. The tape was one of the few that was lost
Disney presents
when my parents got divorced. Like, there were quite a few videotapes that just disappeared, and we had no idea what happened to them. Jungle Book 1997 was one of them. It was weird. We just didn't know, like, some tapes just up and vanished. And Lion King 2 was one of them. So, the only way I could watch Lion King 2 after that was thanks to pre-ordering the Platinum Edition of Snow White when that first came out. They let you get one of the limited issue DVDs alongside it. Now, if I had listened to my father, I probably would have been happier getting Jungle Book, but no, I saw Lion King and I was like, Lion King, Lion King, Lion King, Lion King. So one of the many times my dad is smarter than I am. Not that I don't love Lion King, or not that I don't like Lion King 2, I do, but I probably would have been happier getting Jungle Book or Little Mermaid or something in comparison to getting Lion King 2. If I had been smart and listened, maybe we wouldn't have had that problem, but fact of the matter is I was not smart enough and did not listen, so
I've got an idea.
I reap what I sow. That doesn't count for the fact that this was still one of the best openings to any film that I had growing up as a kid, because, wow, it psychs you up just for the frickin' cream of the crop, a sequel to the best Disney film ever. Man, you couldn't do much better than that. And it wasn't like Hunchback 2, which opened like a frickin' Christmas story. 6 was Sleeping Beauty, 1997, and the reason I picked this one to be at number 6, because I was debating for a while when I set up this list, was I going to put Sleeping Beauty ahead of Jungle Book? Because both of these tapes were pretty significant tapes that I used to watch as a kid. And Sleeping Beauty to me was my sister's tape. Funny story about me and my sister. I'm serious. I have a story for every single one of these tapes. But like I said, getting back to the basics, my sister and I did not get along very well as kids. But then again, what brother and sister really do get along as kids? And it's not creepy like Jamie and Cersei. God, I could never imagine being like that with my sister. But regardless, Sleeping Beauty was my sister's tape. Jungle Book was my tape. And it got to the point where we just sort of divided the tapes up among ourselves when we were little kids. To the point where, at around the time Tori, my sister, was 8 or 9 years old, she just like gave up because I was like hardcore keeping to that whole, these are mine. And basically how it ended up going was,
coming only to theaters.
I had Snow White and Pinocchio. Those were both my tapes. Dumbo and Bambi were both my sisters. If you're counting, that's 2 and 2 a pop. My sister got Cinderella and Alice in Wonderland. I got Peter Pan. My sister got Sleeping Beauty. I got 101 Dalmatians. My sister got Mary Poppins. I got the Jungle Book. Now you notice that my sister has a little bit more than I did. Don't worry, that'll come in the future. That's sort of the leverage that I used to get the tape that I was gonna get. Then my sister had the Aristocats. I had Robin Hood.
reunites all the
My sister had Winnie the Pooh. I had The Fox and the Hound.
Paige O'Hara,
My sister had Oliver and Company. I had The Great Mouse Detective.
And two new
My sister had Beauty and the Beast. I had The Little Mermaid.
the evil pipe organ.
And to even it up and to take the lead in terms of the amount of tapes that I had, I got both Aladdin and The Lion King, which made me very happy.
Friends, join your favorite characters, singing
Didn't make my sister happy because we both loved Lion King, but I liked it just a wee bit more than she did. Nowadays, I love it significantly more than she does because her favorite Disney movie is Sleeping Beauty, to not surprise anybody there. But then she got Pocahontas. I got Toy Story. She got
Disney Home Video is timeless Disney classics.
Did she get Hercules?
These three great Disney
I think she did. I think, yeah, she had Hercules. I had Hunchback. She had Mulan and Beauty and the Beast and the Enchanted Christmas. I had Lion King too. She got Pocahontas too. I got A Bug's Life.
Leonard Maltin says it's
she got Tarzan.
And now it's available.
Well, no, she didn't get Tarzan. She got Little Mermaid. No, did she have Little Mermaid too?
Disney's Old Yeller.
Trying to remember.
Also this month comes one of the most imaginative and innovative animated classics ever made.
No, she did have Tarzan. She did have Tarzan, and then I had Toy Story 2. Sorry about that. No surprise, I can't open my mouth without my allergies flaring up. But no biggie. We almost be done here with this part. And then, like, vice versa, you guys get the point. On and on and on to the point where we each had our own mini collection of all the Disney films, but the ones we argued the most about were the fairy tales. And the four that we agreed that the other could have was we let Tori was able to have, my sister Tori, was able to have Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty without me arguing. And I was allowed to have The Little Mermaid and Snow White without her arguing. So, we had those two. Those were the only two that we could agree 100% that the one could have and the other one didn't really need to. Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin, on the other hand, were ones that we argued about forever. Until the point where my mom said, look, you like Beauty and the Beast a bit more. You like Aladdin a bit more. So here, Aladdin, Michael, you can have that. Tori, you have Beauty and the Beast. There we go. End of story. Move along.
From Walt Disney Home Video.
And that kind of worked for a while. Until more tapes started coming out, and we started fighting over them again. But by that point, we were going through a lot of rough patches as a family, so we had to put aside our differences for a little bit and find new things to make us feel better. And honestly, this Sleeping Beauty was one of the tapes that no matter what happened, if one of us put it on, the other one would come down and watch with us. Because I enjoy Sleeping Beauty. It's not my favorite of the Disney fairy tales by a long shot. In fact, I'd probably say it's out and out my least favorite Disney fairy tale iteration of it, despite having being one of the most beautiful and also having one of the best Disney villains of them all in it. But hey, what you gonna do? Also, speaking of which, we had a bunch of CDs growing up as a kid, but never were my sister and I so blown away in a desire to have a CD to play with on our computer more than Disney's Magic Artist. My sister and I spent so many hours with this game. And it was, again, one of the only ones that we could share because the rest of them, it was Tori, my sister had Barbie. I had the Aladdin Activity Center. My sister had the Disney Princess dress-up thing. It was a Beauty and the Beast one. And I had... What did I have to counter that? I think I had an Arthur game. But either way, one of the only games my sister and I ever shared on the PC was Disney's Magic Artist, because we loved that game. We had way too much fun with that game as little kids. Like, no joke, like, that was probably the... I'm just gonna go out and say it. It was the best game. One of the best games that I'd ever played as a little kid. Especially considering I wasn't allowed to play that many exciting video games, you know. Sonics and
Thanks for joining us for this special
stuff. Like, when my mom had us let us play the Sega, I was gonna play Thomas the Tank Engine or Toy Story. I didn't have that much of a choice. Until my dad started smuggling games and he's like, your mom's just being a little crazy. Here, you can play Aladdin. So what if Aladdin has a sword? It's Aladdin. It's not like it was Grand Theft Auto, though my dad would do that later just to spite my mom. But either way, Sleeping Beauty was one of the ones that my sister and I could fall back on together to watch and enjoy, basically. That's gonna be it for this part. See you guys in the next part where we tackle numbers 5 through 1, which, yes, believe it or not, I do have even more stories and things to talk about in terms of commentary. So I will see you guys then. Until we meet again, my lovelies, sayonara.